What's up, people? Welcome to a brand new edition of Wrestle Update. I'm your host, Dylan Fox, joined as always by my good friend, the one I love the most, Nello de Angelis. It's good to have you here once again. It's good to be talking. Man, so much has happened. Look at all the stuff that's happened in the world. Christmas, all the holidays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's is coming up. Festivus? Is that real? The only thing
counts.
Okay, look at that. Festivus counts. I mean, you are the one that determines that ultimately. So I'm glad that you set the record straight on this. Saturnalia. How about that one? National Chocolate Eclair Day. All the big holidays.
All the big ones.
But yeah, how are you feeling with everything, man? I hope you got some good food. That's all I care about when it comes to holidays. Like, did you get food?
I did get great food. I had some porcini, risotto.
This is super really, Italian.
Yeah, very Italian.
Love
incredibly Italian Christmas food. So I was very, very pleased with it. Yeah, I don't know. It was a very good holiday. I'm enjoying, my time off now. So
yeah.
Just taking it in. It was nice last night. I had friends over to watch wrestling, and then I watched World's End after that. So it was just a very full day of graps, and I love those days. So
the days, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Someone once said in The Shining. But in real life, the thing that shined most was AEW on this night because we have so much to talk about. We're at the end of the year. I mean, it's World's End. We're talking about it, but we've got stuff coming up. We've got year-end awards coming up. We've got AEW coming to Max coming up. We've got Raw on Netflix coming up. So much is happening right now. The year 2025 is going to be major in the world of wrestling, and I can't wait to talk about all of it. And when we talk about AEW, obviously, at least for me, I don't know how you felt about this, Nello, but the draw of this show was the tournament. Like the semifinals and the final. It was not the main event, and we will talk about that later for sure. But to me, the Continental Classic was what drew me in. It's what kept me into this company the last month or so. But I did want to briefly chalk up where we were, what led us to this show, which was the setting up the final of the Continental Classic. So before this, we had the Dynamite on 34th Street show, which was like setting up the finals, pretty much. And Christmas Collision as well on there. But that kind of setting up the finals, pretty much. What did you think of on Christmas Collision? I was skipped over it, but I did watch it. What did you think of the Ricochet and Ospreay match? Because I think that's the one that was really important on that show. All the matches were good, in my opinion. But
yeah, I liked it. I thought that it was better than their first singles match, honestly. Yeah. I liked the character work by Ricochet a lot. I think that we finally saw, remember when I was talking about I'll give it 3 weeks, right? I'll give a shitty angle 3 weeks. I felt like they already... You are looking smart for that, because when that happened, I was flabbergasted, but I think your way was the right way in hindsight. Yeah, the character came full circle then. You're like, okay, I see what they're doing, and he did it really well. I thought this toilet paper thing, and we'll talk about it later, I fuck with it. I thought that was, and it's one of those things where they wind up, I don't know if this was now a fan thing that it started, or if it was always planned like this, because it's just worked its way into the narrative so fucking well. And yeah, I don't know. I like this match. Other than that, on Collision, Briscoe Beast Mortos was pretty awesome. Daniel Garcia, Shelton Benjamin was pretty great. I wasn't too big on Claudio and Darby. I thought it was fine, but not I think Darby's had such an awesome tournament that this wasn't quite to the level that I was hoping for either guys. What about you? Anything else on Collision?
No. I really agree with what you were saying. I think that, the Ricochet and Ospreay match, I personally thought it was a lot better with the toilet paper stuff on Collision than World's End, how they did it. We'll get into that later. But when it happened on Collision, I thought it was awesome. I was like, yes, like this is exactly what you want to happen. I felt so, and like you said, maybe it was all a plan. They worked everybody, they put plants in the crowd to do it. But it felt so natural, and I thought that was such a good look for the company. I really enjoyed Shelton and Garcia, Briscoe, Mordos. The thing is, these guys are kind of like the workhorses, like Shelton and Briscoe and Mordos and Garcia. Like, they're not sitting here having 5-star matches, but they're just grinding out these really good performances every single week. They've been really consistent. The main event I thought was good, not up to the standard you would want of them, but you have high standards. So I thought it was good. I wouldn't say great. I mean, they cut it off kind of short, and I was surprised by the result personally. But they moved us on to Dynamite on 34th Street, and that was the final show. I liked how they did set up Gold League, where everybody was in play. Like everybody had 6 or 9 points, except for Commander. I thought that was really good booking. How do you think that went? Because you had Ospreay, Brody King on there, and that saw Ospreay advance. I thought this was like a really strong match. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I felt like there was no way King was going to win, so that kind of took it down a little bit for me. But it's still a great match.
That and I saw the hype posts before it, like Dave being like, I've gotten multiple people telling me that Ospreay and King was the best match of the tournament. So I went in with this kind of like unrealistic expectation, but yeah, I thought it was good. I liked how they structured this because you had Ospreay going in first, right? And now it's the next 2 matches are going to determine if he actually makes it. Awesome. Now you have tension for Ospreay. You go into Darby Allin and Ricochet. Ricochet wins the block, and it's almost like a stain on Ospreay too, just kind of like a little fuck you, as we're still on the way to figure out if he's going to get in there. And then we also get that really, like, Ricochet is even worse for, like, even though it's a time limit draw, like that adds the additional chicken shit rip. Ricochet, right? Which I love.
Yeah, it was great. That was great booking.
And then what I liked most is that they built up to Commander so that he could get his moment. Is Commander and Claudio the biggest match out of Darby, Ricochet, Will Ospreay, Brody King? No, it's the third. Like, this is the smallest match out of the 3, but they had this one main event the Gold League, so you could really give Commander that spotlight win. Finally, in the match, getting the Mark Briscoe spot from last year, and he gets a really strong win, especially after winning the TV title. So I thought this was really good and smart booking.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, the end result of this, I was really down on, to be honest, I think, like Ricochet has not really impressed me that much in this tournament. And so much so that they pivoted more towards this character-based performer, which he's doing a great job with. Clearly getting a ton of heat and stuff. But in terms of the wrestling, like, Darby has been so much better than him, in my opinion. And I was a little bummed that he made it, but how it worked out, I think I'm pretty much okay with it. Now, Commander I thought was great. I love in that match, too, how they didn't try to rewrite the book or anything. It was like a 7-minute match. They built to the big spot where Darby gave him the brass knucks to call back to the Saturday match with Claudio and Darby. And then Commander got his big moment. Everything about it was good. Okada Shelton in Blue League, it was a good match. It's another one where it's like, okay, they're probably not going to eliminate Okada as much as I wish they would based on the performance in the tournament. Although he came through in the end, of course. But at the time, I was like, man, Okada's like been my least favorite person in this whole tournament, pretty much. And I really didn't want him to move on, but I knew he would. So I wasn't that into that match. The main event was good. Another one, I personally don't think it was great, but I thought it was really good and well done, and it exemplified Fletcher's heel character and how he's melded his wrestling into it. So I thought the Blue League matches were both good, not great. The main event was definitely better.
We differ. I thought Fletcher Garcia was like one of my favorite matches of the tournament. Like if we say like actual league play, like Darby Osprey, Briscoe Fletcher, Garcia.
The first two I was with you. I mean, I like this. Don't get me wrong, and the crowd was into it. Fletcher, he's really caught on as this heel. They've done a great job with him, and he's done a great job as well. I just thought that, I thought like so earlier on, right? You had Osprey and Brody, where Osprey really felt like King brought through. He unloaded everything he had on him and put him on the defensive. And this match, I think they wanted to have it. Fletcher was trying to do the same thing where he was putting all of everything he had into winning this match. But Garcia was not able to be on the defensive as long as Osprey was. And I thought it really could have been better if they had a more the match would have flowed better if it was more direct, more than the back and forth that they had. But it's good. Like it was still really good. Don't get me wrong. I just maybe what did it was because when they did the Orton spot, that made me think of Orton, and that automatically made me take a star off. Automatically.
Damn.
It was good though, overall. And it's another situation where it's like, okay, they're not going to eliminate Fletcher. He's going to wrestle Osprey, of course. That's another thing that I was ready to get this over with. Like at this point, I'm like, okay, we know where we're going.
They got me with all the false finishes. I'm not gonna lie. Like they had me really believing in Garcia.
But Dave gave it 4.5 stars. So it's not like you're alone. It's an 8 out of 10 on Cage Match.
Yeah, I mean, because I would give like Fletcher and Briscoe and this one both 4.5, and then Darby and Will like a 4 3/4. So there were great matches this tournament. Like I don't think I would give anything under a 3. Like there was, because like under a 3, I would say it's just like below average. Like 3 is like a good baseline match. I don't think there was anything below that in this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in terms of tournament play, I mean the lineup is so strong that it was hard to mess this up. Pretty much, I think Commander. I mean, I feel bad Juice got hurt, but I think he gained more than Juice would have in this role. Especially, I mean, you can see it with the Ring of Honor TV title deal that he's got going on right now. They're in a great spot with all of these wrestlers. And I think last year you had more fat on there with like Jay White in there, Jay Lethal, even though he delivered at the end against Mark Briscoe. This year you didn't really have that level of guy. Like the worst guy to me was Okada, and we saw what he did in the finals of this tournament. Overall, like he came through when it mattered most. But it was a great tournament. Like I honestly think it's carried the company. Like in my opinion, like without this tournament, I think I would be so negative right now, just because I think their stories are like they're not just uninspiring, they're actively bad, like for the most part, and we're gonna get into it on the show. I think they're actively terrible, like storylines up and down, like the main, like the titles. So when you see that, and then you have this tournament that you kind of hang your hat on, it really made it good. It's like everyone just wrestled good. The only thing I think made this year worse than last year, my criticism of this year's tournament, last year felt like it had more heart, in my opinion, even though I don't think the wrestling was purely as good. And I think a big reason behind that is how many times, look at that Claudio and Darby match, and even the Commander and Claudio match. How many times in this tournament did we see a heel cheat somehow? Whether it was the brass knucks, whether it was the referee bending down. There was that one episode they did it like 3 times, and I was just like, oh, this is lame as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like they're not creative enough to do this kind of heel stuff over and over again. If it were me, I would have done one major heel finish like in the tournament to make it like, oh shit, they so and so cheated to win in advance. Like Ricochet, like if Ricochet had done something dirty, like over Ospreay, and that was it, I think that would be like a major moment. As it is, it's like you had 20 different heel finishes in this tournament, and I think that messed up some matches. And it didn't mess up quality because all of these guys are great workers, even if they're heels. But it made it have less heart, in my opinion, than last year, which was such a pure tournament. Like every heel wrestled fair. Like it was such a good thing. And I think this year didn't have that. Even though I think like that Ospreay Darby match was better than anything in last year's tournament. And I think the final in this year's tournament was also better than anything on last year's. So I think like if you talk about peaks, this wins, but it did not have the heart of last year. What did you think?
No, well said. Yeah. I can't argue with that. And we had talked about that, it's like if you're going to build it up so much that there are no interferences, don't rely on shit that basically produces the same exact or has the same effect and end result, And
what is the problem? Like we saw last year, none of these losses hurt anybody. Like, what are you so afraid of having clean losses?
I mean, they've always had that issue. Whether it either manifests in like a really fucky finish, they don't go to the draw that often, but they have definitely more in this recently than they have like in their first couple years. Or they simply don't book the match, which is always annoying too.
Well, that was prevalent in the Owen tournament that first year where it was like you had no stars in there. Like you really can't have anybody lose. Like what the hell? But yeah, I just think they really could have handled that a lot better overall. But it was a great tournament and really carried the company, in my opinion, for as things went. But let's go ahead and get into World's End now. It was a great tournament, no doubt. And I'm really glad that they do it. And I hope next year is just as good. I just would like to see more clean finishes, ultimately. And I'm not like, yes, they said no interferences. They didn't say everything would be 100% clean. But I just think it does a disservice to your actual heel finishes to do them over and over. But regardless, 0 Hour, it was a nothing show, totally. The main thing is they set up how maybe Jeff Jarrett's going to make an announcement about his career on Dynamite. So we can presume that he's going to do a retirement run similar to Sting in 2025. That could be cool. I don't know what you could I don't know what
you fucking tag titles. Just do the same thing.
Just same mistake. Team Jeff up with
look,
Darby.
As long as there's glass involved, I'm happy. I'm a simple person. What can I say?
Yes, that's what we need. The king of the mountain, potentially climbing Mount Everest with Darby.
See, we think he's going to retire, but really he's bringing back Global Force Gold. So,
are you ready? Did you buy any of those?
Oh, I have so many, and they're aging very well.
I think that was a great investment on your part.
Thank you. There. Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Well, let's see what happens on Wednesday. With that, it should be a good show. Like we said, first ever Dynamite on Max. So they're going to make it a big deal as they can. Otherwise, nonsense, like, lame matches up and down. Nothing special. Toni Storm got a win. She did her roll-up. And I will say this. I was critical of the Toni Storm, and I want us to revisit last week's episode where I said for this storyline to work, it requires the fans to pretend they haven't seen what they have seen. And they're doing that. Like, that's exactly what's happening. Like, they're pretending she's a rookie. Like, and they're getting into this rookie storyline.
Dude, like, she's captivating. Like, she is so good at getting, like, so here's the thing, right? Timeless Tony and this, like you just said, it requires the audience, like, First off, when you go to a pro wrestling show, right? Or I should say, when you go to a basketball show, when you walk into the arena, you're not walking into a different reality, right? It's like a movie or it's like a play, but even more so because in the movie and the play, you're not shouting at the fucking screen or the actors unless you do. And that's perhaps questionable. It's, there's a time and place for things.
That sounds like my grandpa Ken when he watches stuff. He'll yell at them. Yes.
But like, when you go to wrestling, when you walk into that arena, you're going into a different reality. It is up to you and the crowd to build, right? And then so you already have that first ripple, right? And then with a Tony Storm, you have to add the additional one, whether it's timeless or it's this like amnesia thing or, sort of trauma response, I should say. And the crowd is totally into it. And like, she is so good at getting them to invest more because it takes more on the part of the audience as well. And like, they are so fucking in, like you said, they're into it, but more than anything else, like they are willing to participate.
It's true. I still think, this is still absurd, like logically, like if you try to apply logic to it, like this is still ridiculous, but like it's working for the fans. So I can't criticize it that much. I still personally don't like it. I would rather. Why can't? Okay, we'll talk about this in the pay-per-view. Like, it's a great comparison to what we saw tonight with the women's titles. But still, this is working. like I cannot deny that when the fans are going along with it. And obviously, this is all to build to the Australian show. So, I can't criticize it too much. I was very happy to see Layla Gray as well get a shot on there. I mean, the match was nothing, but still, I like her music more than anything. Her music video for Baddie was like a really, it's like an earworm song, like her Baddie song. So I have to give her credit for that. But other than that, you had Top Flight and the Murder Machines. They won a tag match, and then Private Party came out and was like, "Hey guys, we're the champs. Like, we're the tag champs." And that's how the 0 hour concluded.
Tag team division has thinned out a lot in terms of star power, but like they have a lot of active teams, and I could totally see, and I hope Murder Machines take the belts off of Private Party sooner than later. I think that you have had Cage and Archer for so long in this company. Yeah. Archer since the beginning, Cage essentially since the beginning. He came in like, I think his match with Moxley for the title was like July 2020, right? So pretty much at the start. They are perfect guys. Like, their ceiling is like an awesome monster tag team. You need a monster tag team. And I think like if you're going to pull the trigger on them sooner than later, like you just gotta at some point.
I think it's a good way to rebuild the division, kind of, because like then that will help whoever beats them. Yep. I mean, I feel bad. I like Private Party like well enough, but it's like, I mean, their match when they won the belts over the Bucks was awesome. That was a moment on Dynamite for sure. But they just, for whatever reason, there really hasn't been any follow up with them as champions. And how bad was that segment where they tried to give them their own talk show, and it was like, oh, we're in the Private Party, we're in the VIP room, and it was like the garage they were in or whatever. It's like, this party sucks. Like they should put more into these guys, not put them in the garage. Okay.
Dylan, it's 8 p.m. on a Friday. You've just gotten off work. You're a little bit tired, but you're maybe feeling the urge to go out. You get hit up by Zay and Quen. Are you going to the Private Party, or are you just going to maybe stay home, play some Final Fantasy, just kick back, relax?
Yeah, right now, I will say over Christmas, I did get a couple of video games. Sonic Frontiers and Life is Strange. Double vision, so I'm gonna play Life is Strange instead.
Sonic Frontiers is the open world one.
Yeah,
I'm not a Sonic person, admittedly, but I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, the theme song from the game was like I felt as soon as that song played, I was like, oh, that's where that song's from, because that was that was me and my ex-girlfriend. That was like our song, like the theme song to this game. Yeah, Find Your Flame on there, and I was like, oh, it's like, oh yeah, like like that's what the song was from. So that gave me like a trip, like a nostalgia trip. But like, Sonic, I love him. Like Sonic the Hedgehog is the man. Life is Strange, I'm a huge fan of that whole series. The last one was really great, True Colors. So I'm really interested. They're going back to the first one now, and I'm happy to go back to Max on here. The Max of Life is Strange is like so much better than the Max we have in both Maxes we have in AEW. I will say that. But yeah, so I'll play that, but I would go to Private Party's club or whatever if it was actually at a club, not in a garage. Like, I have to check. I'm gonna have to text them back and be like, hey, you at the garage? Like,
are you at the garage or the club, boys? Because that's gonna determine.
That's what I'm saying. Because this party looked dire that they were at. I feel like any kind of like cool factor automatically goes down if you were at that party. And I mean, that's why and we're talking about Top Flight here. Weren't they just in like pilot costumes like a month ago? They're not cool. And they're good wrestlers. Don't get me wrong. They're not cool at all, except for Layla Gray. Overall, and her song. But yeah, so that's how it ended. They need to work on the tag division. That should be something they work on in 2025. Like I said, I like Private Party.
I don't want it to be on the shoulders of a Bucks or an FTR. The issue is that anytime these guys drop the belts, they don't follow it up really.
Exactly.
Like Lucha Brothers, lukewarm fucking tag run.
Yeah, after an amazing match.
Who else did the Bucks drop to? I'm trying to think. Like, god damn. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head about it, but like, it's just.
But that shows you how unimportant it's been that nobody can remember.
They always go back to them because once it doesn't work, they just go back to them. I would love to see House of Black as well. Like, I still am so perplexed as to why they haven't gotten a run.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Like, that's a team you could build the division around as well. And you could do a fucking probably really awesome series between them and Murder Machines.
Yeah, like Brody King, monster beef match. Hell yeah. Like, I'm all about that. Like I said, I would be totally up for that. I think they really had something. I mean, they can't do it now because he's turned. But remember that week or two, they had Ricochet and Pobbs teaming together? I thought that could have been something really cool overall. But we'll see what they do. I'm with you. I think this Private Party reign has sputtered. Like, it's got to change, like, ultimately. And I feel bad because I like them. But it's been months now, and the division is not at all where it should be. So, fresh start. Get the beef guys in. Let them dominate for 3 or 4 months, and then build whoever you're building up to be the next guys. Beat them, and hopefully that upgrades them a little bit. But anyway, the show started, and pretty much it starts right off with the Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. I thought a great decision, right? Like, as soon as the music hit, I was like, okay, this is perfect opener. Like, this to me was the main match. Like, I was looking forward to. Like I said, and obviously we'll talk about how it played out. But to me, I was way more into this. I thought this had way more to it than Ospreay and Okada, and especially Ospreay and Ricochet again. So, Ospreay and Fletcher, we talked about the first match. We weren't as high on that match as some people, like the first one a couple of months ago. But it was still obviously one we loved very much. Just the standards were so high, and like it got such rave reviews. This one also got rave reviews. So, overall, when you look at it, Fletcher and Ospreay, it's got a 9.08 rating. What do you think?
What everyone said about the last match, I felt was actually applicable here. This was awesome. And so, and I came into this very differently. So when I tuned into the pay-per-view, I tuned in live, and I literally, right when I tuned in, I see Will Ospreay coming out covered in fucking blood and a head bandage coming out for the finals against Okada. So when I came into this match, I knew that this was just like Osprey was going to bleed. I already know who won though. And like still edge of my seat. I think that like something special about a match where you know the finish going in, it's a little bit less about who's going to win and more so about how much can the other person take and how much are they going to give out, right? And so like really being able to focus on Fletcher's performance here. And I think everything from Fletcher's win over Osprey until now has just been really, really solid booking for this specific guy. I think that the story they've told is awesome. They're 1-1 now. I think they can leave it be for a bit. Maybe they go back to it. Who knows? Settle it now. But like this is, you know, Osprey is someone that could pretty much have a great rivalry with anyone at this point. But I think that this is one of those. I'm not going to put it on the same level as a Hangman Swerve, but in terms of in-company rivalries that you can go to, this is definitely one of the stronger. I thought the blood was fucking awesome. Total Muda
Oh
mask.
yeah, but yeah, that's what I was
Muda
thinking.
Mask.
Yeah.
Just amazing work on all fronts. Like I watched this pretty late, so I'm going to be a little bit probably less about match specifics today, more just about general reaction and feeling.
Well, how about one thing? I'm sorry to cut you off, but how great was the finish? I loved that he won with the Styles Clash after all of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. I am such a fan of wrestlers having different ways to put away people, and then that's also what made it one of the most shocking things as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, oh shit! Like I literally had like that oh shit response when he got to 3. I was like, I wasn't expecting that at all, in the best of ways.
Yep.
Oh, great match. So I totally agree with what you said. I thought this was definitely an improvement over Volume 1. And I mean that was shocking too, in that Fletcher won, and you know you had the stuff on the outside with the stairs. That was an epic spot and all, but this was so much more visceral. You know, like this had so much more heart to it, kind of what I brought about the tournament. Like the other ones had big spots, and it was a great match again on its own. I'm not criticizing it, but this had so much more heat to it. It felt like they were allowed to unleash, and I totally agree with what you said about Fletcher. His story is the one that's really working.
If I'm not mistaken, too, Don Callis was not ringside or on commentary for this.
Nope, and he wasn't even on Ospreay's match on Dynamite either.
Yeah, and
or Fletcher's match on Dynamite.
For Garcia, or no, that's Collision. I can't remember. But I wanted to say, anytime I see a Don Callis guy, Takeshita as well, and I think that this was during the triple threat, maybe I can't remember, but and he is not out there. They are such superstars when he is not speaking for them. And I really think that their biggest weakness right now is being attached and associated with this guy, because Takeshita does not need him. I don't think the fucking murder machines need him. And by God, Kyle Fletcher has proven throughout this tournament and throughout this run, he simply does not need him anymore.
Oh, I 100% agree. I've said it from the start. Like, I was one of the ones that said it from the beginning. He is a negative, not a positive, like in my opinion, to his guys. I think Takeshita's in an interesting spot. One of my criticisms of the show was that that half of this card has, I mean, the tournament, like I said, has carried the show pretty much. The other matches have some storylines, and then there was this other half of the card that we really haven't gotten anything with, and Takeshita's match was one of them. Like, you know, it's like, yes, they have history and all, but it's not like we've seen them every week, like, doing stuff. You know, it's just that we're just having this match, like, finally. And I really worry about Takeshita in 2025. It feels like Fletcher's the new toy, you know what I'm saying? Like, with this company. And I don't know how they're going to react. I hope that they have a plan for Takeshita to where he could turn, like, babyface, because I'd love to see him and Fletcher have a match in the future. And Fletcher's done a phenomenal job as a heel. He's a guy that really shows that you have to stick with somebody like this. And I said it before that he feels like one of the chosen ones for the company. And he has taken it on his shoulders and done a fantastic job with it. He's totally earned that faith that they've given him. And this match was great. 9 out of 10, 4.5 stars, I think is like totally valid for this match.
Yeah, the blood here added so much, and we'll talk about blood on the show later as well.
And it set up the next match for Ospreay so good, like for this one night story as well.
And we just watched a deathmatch tournament together, the Nick Gage Invitational 9.
Yep.
And to me, there's like one of my favorite visuals in pro wrestling is someone coming out for another match the same night, and they have all the dried blood on them. It's such a fucking visual. And like they're coming back out, and it's just like, oh my God, I love that. It's like gladiator shit, man, for real.
Yeah.
And I think at the core of pro wrestling, it's gladiators.
Yeah. And that really made, like you said, it feels like this warrior is coming out for sure. And when you think of warriors, I know you're thinking of Ricochet right now. Do you have any thoughts on? I just want to address this real quick because it was a big talking point. Do you have any thoughts where he was like trying to gimmick up like Andrew Tate shit on Twitter or whatever, and that made a lot of people mad? I think he like retweeted something he said, and a lot of people got really mad about that. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ricochet?
God, it's such a fine line because it's like to be a true heel is to be a true heel, but like and there's like emulation, right? I think of like when Will Ospreay did Conor McGregor as the Commonwealth Kingpin, and that was also like a Jesus Christ, stop it.
Yeah, that sucked. And that, on top of it, that sucked. At least this was just a retweet. It's not like he's doing it on the shows.
Yeah. And it's like, but like a retweet, I guess in this day and age, feels less like heel work and more like platform supportive, I guess.
And it's like, I think people are at this point where they separate, like they think Twitter is like real life and the show is the show, kind of.
Yes, exactly. And it's like with that sort of vague of a thing, it's like you can't really tell what's going on. So people are going to react, right?
Yeah, and he deleted it. I think he knew he screwed up, pretty quick on there. And it doesn't actually fit his character, actually, because when you look at him on the show, he's like this weaselly guy. Like he's not like this loud, like wannabe alpha male guy. Like he's like a Weasley character on here. So it didn't really fit him at all anyway. Like I said, I think he screwed up. I'll give him a mulligan on it. Even though it's stupid. Like I don't think anything of Andrew Tate at all. Like on a personal level. But Ricochet, I think he screwed up. It's not like he did anything like terrible, at the end of the day, and hopefully he's learned from it. We all have to have learning experiences, hopefully, at the end of the day, and hopefully that doesn't happen again. Because like I said, and like you said, I think a lot of people take it kind of as a real life situation, not necessarily a character work as well. You have to realize that. I think it's tough for a lot of wrestlers in the modern era too, because I think a lot of people, especially someone like him who's been wrestling for 20 years, because he came up around the similar time I did, like when I was wrestling, 2005, 2004, all that.
Dylan was in a Kentucky auditorium in 2004 throwing fucking toilet paper, and you were like, "Have a good life, Trevor."
Yeah,
he's
Trevor.
Like, he still had hair. Ricochet still had hair.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, real talk though, they wouldn't let people under 18 wrestle in Kentucky, so people like Chuck Taylor would come to Tennessee, my area, to wrestle. Because he wasn't 18 when he started wrestling. So Kentucky, the commission's such a pain in the ass, and Tennessee doesn't give a crap about wrestlers apparently. But the thing is, my point is, he probably got it hammered home. I talked about it last week. For a long time, I had a super problem like buying merchandise or going to shows or anything like that, because it was like, don't be a mark. Like everyone had this old school shit that they would beat into you, kind of. So I wonder if he didn't have the same thing where it's like you got to keep kayfabe and all that bullcrap. But I think nowadays that stuff's so unimportant. Like I think people care more about your real life activities now more than ever than like try to keep kayfabe and make you think it's real.
Like look at someone like MJF, right, who's said, and Christian, right, who have both said horrifically worse shit than than Ricochet has in the past couple weeks. But the thing is that they don't attach it to any real life character like that, right? And I think that that's sort of how you get away with it, or not get away with it, but that's how you can tiptoe that line, right?
And we saw it with the MGF. Remember when he did the anti-Semitic thing? That got a super negative reaction. They had to cut that angle.
Yeah.
Because that was bringing in real life stuff. That was on the day, October 7th or whatever that year. Yeah, and that didn't work at all. So that's a great point. Yeah, like you said, it's really dangerous mixing real life stuff like that. That's so serious because something like that, and even the stuff with Andrew Tate and all the crazy shit he's done, that's real life stuff, that's huge implications. It's not like when Ricochet was saying there's no AEW without me, that was stupid. But I mean, it doesn't go any further than that. It's like, okay, this wrestler guy thinks he's the man or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Or MJF saying crazy stuff and saying everyone's poor. That sucks. And he sucks at it. And I don't like him that much as a wrestler. I don't think he's very good. But also, it's different than when you're blatantly going into an anti-Semitic. Remember, we had a great conversation about that when it happened. Talking about if wrestling is the platform for that kind of storyline, on paper, like in a movie, you're something like we talked about before. You have all of this stuff in your college history. You're a huge film buff and all that stuff. Let's say in a movie, is there anything that should truly be considered off limits in a movie, or a TV show maybe? In terms of morally, we should not show this happening because of why.
I mean, I think at this point, mostly everything has been shown.
Yeah.
I can't think of I'm just racking my brain right now for the absolute worst things in life. There's a filmmaker named Antoine Degata. He's predominantly a photographer, but he does films as well. He lives with Cambodian sex workers, drug dealers in Mexico and Colombia, and he photographs their lives and he films them. And these are, the darkest pits of humanity that you can imagine. And it's real. It's, a woman who literally does donkey shows in a fucking garage, but he lives with her and he puts the camera on her because it's these people don't deserve to just disappear because of their situations and where they were born into and et cetera, right? And those are for me, the hardest films to sit with because you're quite literally facing the quote unquote void. But do I think there's a place for them? Absolutely. Because I think that you have to sit with the darkness as much as you do with the light. God, this is becoming such a philosophical conversation here. But do I think anything is off limits? No. Are there things that I, as a filmmaker and artist, choose not to include in my work? Yes. There are things that I've covered before that I probably wouldn't do again. But and I think that comes from, an act in a movie. To punch someone in the face in a movie can be a metaphor for something else, right? And I think as we learn and we live, we realize that there are deeper ways that we can convey the punch in the face. And there are certain things that people will go to that are very morally just devastating, life altering things. And it's very easy to go to those places. And because of that, it can feel very cheap or ignorant.
Right. And I think one of the cases of that in wrestling was when MJF and Takeshita had their promo.
Yes.
And it was just a cheap promo. I couldn't say I was offended by it at all. If anything, that in that case, I would probably have defended that at the time because, yes, he was being racist and stupid, but it was to set up Takeshita getting a one-up on him at the end, where he called him an asshole and everyone loved
exactly.
Him.
And it's he can still look at Jericho as as much as we rag on Jericho is really good at making himself look stupid without having to resort to things like that, racism, sexism, whatever.
Right.
He's if what was it, Final Battle? Or it was the Ring of Honor leading to Final Battle. I can't remember, but he was if Jackass is the king, then I'm the biggest jackass in New York, right? That shit's great. But and then to bring it back to the MJF conversation, it's with these characters that simply do not end. It's hard because MJF was a character who did racist things constantly. Anytime he was facing a and even I would say non-American wrestler, because we see what he did with Ospreay. And I'm not going to call that racism, but I'd say that anyone that doesn't essentially is who he is going to attack. And like, so why are we supposed to feel for him when he experiences the same thing, but he hasn't actually shown to us that he learned before? Like, I just don't get the shit. But yeah.
No, I understand. But, like in a movie, if there was a racist character, I don't think that would cause as much backlash if it played out in a satisfying narrative way, going all the way back to WrestleMania 19 with Triple H and Booker T, like one of the most hailed instances of racism in wrestling. Like, that storyline was abhorrent because Triple H won in the end. Like, if Booker T had overcome him and shown him he was wrong, then that would have, to me, that would be okay. So I think context really matters with these serious and heavy subjects in wrestling too. If you can't have the racist win in the end, that's freaking stupid. Narratively and just morally, that's bad. We know that. I think if you do it in a way that's where it tells the right story in the right context, that should be okay. At the end of the day, like, if he could get his comeuppance and learn, and we as the viewers can know and be told and be shown that, no, this guy is wrong. Like, what he is saying is wrong. Like I say, they did the same show. People don't talk about this as much, but that same show, MJF insulted Takeshita. That led to Takeshita getting a huge pop and giving him his comeuppance on the mic. That same show, Ricky Starks did a promo where he slut-shamed Ty Conti, like next to Sammy Guevara, and it was presented as a babyface pop with no reason. And that, to me, was actually more offensive than MJF's thing, in my opinion. And I think it's nothing personal. It's just narratively, I think it's offensive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because that was presented as a babyface pop, and that sucks. Like, that shouldn't be that way at the end of the day. And I think we were not told that effectively, whereas in the MJF one, we are shown clearly that this man is a bad person and wrong at the end of the day. And, kind of mentioning about Jericho, and that's why this Ricochet tweet was so stupid. He's another one. Like, he's great at this bumbling weasel heel stick where he could show ass and it's working. And we're seeing it with the toilet paper. So, I would say just stick to that. Because if you're doing a retweet or trying to annoy people on Twitter, I mean, we've seen it. Like, look, Max Caster has tried to do similar troll shit on Twitter. How well has that worked out for
him? He got stomped by Swerve before Ricochet did. Maybe that's what Swerve's new thing since Bryan Danielson left. Swerve just comes out and does punishment now for social media bullshit.
Okay. I think that would be a wonderful gimmick to have. But for all of this, what a tangent that turned into. Let's get to the Ricochet.
Thanks a lot, Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor, this is all your fault.
Yeah, fuck.
Ricochet versus Okada. The crowd's totally on Okada's side here, chanting bald and Ricochet, which is always fun.
Dude, the spot where Okada just slaps Ricochet on the head, this was the beginning.
That was awesome.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think that we saw Okada's heel work tonight go so much above, and character work go above the Rainmaker flip off and calling someone a bitch finally.
And that's the reason why I like that Shelton match, is because he ended up showing him respect at the end. I thought that was cool. That was kind of setting the stage for this.
And, he does it with Ospreay real quick at the end of their final. Yeah. But what I love about that is that it feels like he has autonomy over his character again, because he has felt like he's on autopilot and simply just has to hit his phrases. Like, he doesn't do anything that feels natural or that he would choose to do for himself. Right. And it feels like he's really gotten this agency back where he's making these decisions and these choices that, like, because before it's like, I'm elite, I do this, I do that, bitch, fuck you, whatever, right? And these are like things that to me indicate that there's a person behind the cartoonish caricature that we've gotten so far.
And even as a wrestler, a lot of the times in this tournament, it's felt like he's really just a wrestling robot. Like, he does his spots. He does the Rainmaker pose. He gives the middle fingers. He does the drop kick. Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's not been a lot of heart to any of his matches. This match, the crowd was totally on his side here. And they did some good stuff. That vertigo that Ricochet hit was awesome. Okada took a great bump on it there. Kicked out of the shooting star. He looked for the spirit gun, but he dodged that. Ended up getting Okada hit his own version of the vertigo almost with the Cobra style Emerald Explosion, and then hit the Rainmaker for the win. This match wasn't nearly as good as the Ospreay match was, but I like that it was different though, because so much was focused on Ricochet's heel persona that it just was like a fun mid-card match. That it was a good come down from the epic opener that they had. So I thought it was like perfect for what they wanted it to be, but I would not call this a great match at all, personally.
No, this was a good match, but it was way more about the characters, because you had Okada, who's been a heel the entire tournament, his entire run, having to flip and be like the cool guy. And I thought he played it so well. Really impressive moves, as you said. And I really like the follow-up angle, like if you want to go into that.
Yeah, so Ricochet's all emoing out in the ring, and suddenly the fans are throwing toilet paper at him again. Then Swerve comes out, and he's like, "You got just as far as I did last year, but I thought you were going to win, bruh." And he said, "I told you if you screwed this up, I'm going to embarrass you. And I knew that you would run your mouth, and look what happened." And he said, "Now it's time to clean up your mess." And who do we see but Prince Nana handing out toilet paper rolls to the fans. And they said, "We all just want to help. Let's clean things up." And he does a countdown. He says, on the count of 3, he counts down to 1, 2, 3. He says, "Happy New Year, Trevor." And everybody throws the toilet paper in the ring. Awesome.
Dude, it was such an amazing visual because it looked like the streamers, right? Like that is the image it invokes, is the streamers. Yes. But it's such a fuck you dipshit celebration that is just the complete antithesis of what the streamers should be. And I thought it felt amazing. It looked great. Like, to me, this was a visual that you can go back to a lot in terms of just like a very like defining moment. And I'm excited for this feud. I think that this could be awesome. Because Swerve brings fire out in people.
I loved the end result for the exact reasons you said. The visual was epic. I think the setup was like a little over the top. Like he's cutting this long promo talking about how he was going to embarrass him. I thought it was a little cheesy, like a little cartoonish, but it was worth it by the end. Like the end result of everybody throwing the toilet paper in the ring, like that ruled. Like, this is great, and I'm with you. I think this feud is going to be great. Swerve can really carry things on the mic. I have to say, I think Ricochet's kind of improved a little bit on the mic. I felt that way since that Logan Paul feud he had last year. I think he's really improved on the mic since then. He's obviously not at the level of a Swerve, but I think he can hold his own. And under this gimmick that he has, I think this could totally be a ton of fun on TV and lead to hopefully a great match at the end.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Ospreay. He's like getting worked on by the doctor, and Ospreay walks up. He's got all his blood and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, do I look okay on there?" And he's like, "Whatever, it's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna need everybody to carry me." He's like, "I need the fans to bring me through all this." And he's like, "Yeah, I feel like I've been hit by a bus, but I want to beat Okada and go to Disney World." I thought like a very smart thing to like really rally the fans behind him heading into the last match. So then we got the AEW Women's World Title, the Tijuana Street Fight, Mariah May versus Thunder Rosa. So we did see Thunder Rosa on the outside of the ring giving her side, saying Mariah sucks as a champion, which some would agree with. Definitely pinnacled by.
Dude, real quick, we got to shout out in Osprey Fletcher. There was the fan who had the sign Osprey is.
Oh yes.
Fletcher grabs it, rips it, and immediately the sign
pulls out another sign.
The sign that says Osprey is still better.
That was awesome. That had to be a plant. Like there's no way I think that was real. Like that had to be a plant, but it was awesome. I don't care. Like I'll believe it's real because it was so funny that he had that in mind.
Yep.
So yeah, this roast of Mariah, there really hasn't been that much build to it. It's all been focused on Mariah and Tony, but somehow it's built.
It's all been focused on Mariah, like just being like, I'm gonna bang your dad, pretty much, right? Isn't that what she's been saying? She's just like
talking on Collision, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna use your dad, and Thunder Rosa's like, I'm a former champion, I'm a hardcore wrestler, I'm representing like Mexico, I'm gonna fucking whoop your ass. And Mariah's like, that's cool, dude, I'm gonna kiss your dad. So.
Hey, listen. It's just like we said earlier. We need context for these stories they tell, which this is morally dubious, I would say, trying to seduce someone's father for seemingly no reason other than just get in her head. I mean, I don't think that's a good reason to like sleep with someone, in my opinion, but that's the story they told here. Rosa comes out. She's got a piñata to the ring. And Mariah May is going right at her dad here. Immediately, Rosa starts with this tope suicida on the outside, gets a pin attempt, letting us know that this is a false count anywhere match. She pulls out a trash can and a bunch of chairs. Mariah gets a DDT for a near fall, and then pulls out a bottle of tequila. She ends up going full Kanemaru here with the tequila into the mist. Here to Thunder Rosa's face. They go in. Rosa hits a spear through this board they had on the entranceway. They brawl, and then Rosa grabs the bottle and smashes it over the head of Mariah. They go back to the ring. They're doing a bunch of stuff here. They hit the Mayday. They pull a thumbtack. She hits a Mayday into the thumbtacks, and then finally goes over to Thunder Rosa's dad, and she grabs his cane, pretty much here. Does her like comedic stuff here. She pulls out some barbed wire, puts it over her own leg, and then Rosa counters that and shoves her into the steps with the leg there, and they go in. Rosa grabs a chair, smashes her into the chair, chokes her out with a chain, but then Mariah grabs like this sand or dirt or something. Oh yeah, it was dirt because they said something like that's from the graveyard. I was like, what? When they said that, I was like, what graveyard? What is this about? But anyway, she hits the Storm Zero off the apron through the table. I mean, it was a goofy plunder match. Why was there dirt from a graveyard? Like, what does that have to do with any of this?
I thought that was the coolest spot of the year. I don't know. Just to add, like, it's one of those things where, like, how do we make it a Tijuana street fight? And they're like, graveyard? That fucking works.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what does that have to do with Tijuana? Like, I get it, the Mexico love, with the piñata and all that stuff. Like, I get it. But why the graveyard? Like, what does that have to do with any of this? It's not even like Dia de los Muertos or anything like that. Like it's just like if it was like the Day of the Dead, okay, I get it. Like that's a big Mexican holiday. Like okay, we got you, but just on Christmas, what? I don't know. What did you think of the match though?
It was good. It felt like they wanted to do a Brit Thunder Rosa style match, right? Which, it feels like they always just want to recreate that for some reason. At least that's how it felt to me. I thought this was a good match, though. Like, by no means was this bad or anything. I just felt like it didn't have enough of its own identity. Like you said, like the dirt and stuff was like the gimmicks were pretty weird. But I thought like the spots that they hit were well wrestled. Nice visual for the ending, and Mariah gets a dominant win over a former women's world champion, which is the kind of booking she needs right now. And she got a match on a pay-per-view.
That was the big win for the title, I guess. Maybe this is like some kind of Tarantino reference, like Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Like they were doing that. So it's like, that seems like something that would happen. There was probably a graveyard in his movies at some point. But yeah, the match was good. I thought the effort was strong between both women. I think Rosa's really good, like as a wrestler. Like pretty much anytime she gets a chance, she wrestles good. She just doesn't get many chances. That's the problem in this company. Mariah is hit or miss for me as a wrestler and as a character both. I would say. I think we've seen like her have great peaks, but some really low valleys as well. But I think the effort is there. Even when things don't work, I think she tries very hard. And I think overall, this worked well enough. I think I would have had this later in the show to be more of a breakup, like plunger match, because you had so much going on here. Putting it so early, I think you didn't really break up anything. Like, we just had the breakup match with the more comedic, like fan interaction Ricochet match than this one. But anyway, good match. It's got a 6.52 rating in Cage Match. That seems pretty fair to me, to be honest. I wouldn't say it was great, but I thought it was good, and I thought they tried really hard. After that, though, yeah.
Oh, no, please.
After that, though, we get to the true main event. The Dynamite Diamond Ring match. MJF versus Adam Cole. And would you know it, the Kingdom just so happens to be on the outside as they set this up on the Dynamite beforehand. So, what do you think? What do you think of all of this?
I thought that this was so hilarious going on after the previous 3 matches because they both bleed and the blood means absolutely nothing because it's not on the level of Ospreay's. And it does.
Yeah, good point.
They don't have the drama that match did. These are 2 very heavy character wrestlers as well. They didn't have as good enough of character work that Okada and Ricochet did, and I don't think the crowd was as into it. They're trying to work like a grudge match. They didn't even have the level of brutality that Mariah May and Thunder Rosa did. This was a match that tried to basically be the previous 3, and it failed in all 3 sections. This was dog shit, and I really pray that this is the end of the feud.
The good thing, first of all, I totally agree. This match was awful. And it's the ending this feud deserved because it's awful. Everything about it sucks. Like the only good thing is, somebody must have gotten to somebody's ear. I don't know who, but somebody must have told these people and whoever likes this backstage, like this has to end. Like the fans hate this. The storyline is awful. We have to end this. Because you easily, when the Kingdom comes out to the ringside, I thought for sure they were going to turn on Cole and continue this feud. But they didn't do that. Instead, they had a big moment. First of all, they had MJF win, because of course, you can never lose. He got the win. And then suddenly Roderick Strong makes his big return to fight him. Kyle O'Reilly brings him back in, throws him in. It's they turn in, they hit the total elimination on MJF, and then Cole hits him with the ring, and then all of the Kingdom are together again, and they all hug.
Not for me. This is not for me anymore, and I used to love these guys, but this feels like a band reuniting for like the 6th time, and each time the music has diminishing returns. It's like I'm not a Guns N' Roses fan, but like there's a big fucking difference between like Shackler's Revenge off Chinese Democracy and like Welcome to the Jungle, right? And it's just
yes.
God, this is just, it's not for me. It's not for me, and I don't know what position these guys have on the roster. I don't know where they factor in. It's 5 guys who just like, okay, so Kyle's not in the conglomeration anymore, I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah, it's just not for me. I don't know. I'll only say negative things. And if there are people who enjoy this, that's awesome too, because I'm sure there are people who were hoping that they would get this reunion. They did it, and it happened.
What if Fish came back? Bobby Fish.
Oh, dude, if only. What? He's in a group right now in like MLW.
Yeah,
What
MLW. Yeah, it's with crap. I don't know. I know what you're talking about though. It's not Paul Walter Hazard, is it?
It's he's part of the Rogue Horsemen with C.W. Anderson, Brock Anderson, and Brett Ryan Gosling.
Love
the
it.
Rogue Horsemen.
Yeah, but no Fish here. Instead, you get the Kingdom all together. And yeah, I mean, I think this feud sucks. Like, I think most people are not into this. I think last year, I mean, I hated it from the start. I literally thought last year was some of the worst, like, television, not just wrestling, worst television in history. This year was bad because it had really overstayed its welcome and had no purpose. But they weren't really doing embarrassing stuff like last year. Like that Chinese segment I'll always go to, that Chinese restaurant segment was like, not only was it offensive to me personally, but also it was just horrible. Like as a segment, it was like the worst modern Disney Channel show had better acting than what they were putting together week to week in their feud. But for whatever reason, I mean, it drove off a ton of fans. That's undeniable at this point. But some people liked it. I will not deny it. Like they drove off everyone who did not like it, but the people who stayed, they did like it. This year, I don't think anybody stayed with it. They just want this all to end, and hopefully, like you said, it has. And I don't know. Like where does MJF go from here? Even with a win.
Another Adam Sandler movie, hopefully. I don't know. Hasn't he called out Okada before?
Maybe. I think they're setting something else up for him based on.
Oh yeah. But I mean, dude, that's if Okada and Omega isn't happening at All In, I'll eat my fucking shoe live on this podcast, because the way that they drilled in All In behind those guys during that segment,
yeah,
I'm like, it could not have been any more like, hey, guess what we're doing? Buy your tickets.
Maybe they should put MJF in Ring of Honor.
Ooh, I would love that.
I honestly think that would be a better role for him than if he were the Ring of Honor champion. Let's say he was in Jericho's role. I think that would be a lot better. Because I don't think he adds anything to the show anymore in terms of star power. Like that's all. I don't think he added anything in the first place. But if there was anything he had, it's all gone now. Obviously as a wrestler, I just think he's like. He's not to my particular taste, I would say, as a performer. As a promo, also not to my taste. I think that what can he add in AEW at this point? It's kind of the danger of having an overbloated roster. Eventually, people are going to have to take back seats. And I think this might be his turn now. I mean, he's not championship quality. Like he's not a world championship level performer right now. Like no way. And him feuding with Moxley wouldn't even make any sense. So I think that hopefully he can go do more movies.
I mean, could he not go after Garcia?
Yeah, I guess that could work. They never really. I mean, they kind of did the thing there. Yeah, they could do that. Like him versus Garcia for the title. Yeah, I could get behind that, because at least that's a storyline purpose. That gives you something at least.
Dude, okay. Can I pitch this real quick? So Daniel Garcia is the face of TNT, but now that Dynamite is also streamed on Max, MJF is like, I need the Max title. That's my fucking name, dude.
Genius. Like, great angle. Like, look, you totally, like, in a matter of seconds, you've already had me buying into an MJF angle. Like, that's great talent on your part, man.
He's like, I'm Max. You're Daniel.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like it could go sideways fast, but I love the idea of him debuting his own Max title for himself to combat Daniel Garcia. Like, I'm all for that, but some of the promos, just you saying that, because I could totally see him saying a line just like that, that same inflection that you just said it, and I don't know if I want to watch that every week. I know Dynamite. But it's a great idea. Give MJF the Max title, and we'll be off to the races.
I don't know if I ever shared this with you before, but like my dream for AEW is that they actually create divisions. And that as a wrestler, you have to declare yourself for a division. So it's like, because they still do wins and losses, right? But it's like, okay, if you're in the TNT division, then your wins and losses right now count towards this division, right? So like MJF right now, if he was like, all right, I'm declaring myself for the TNT division, he would go in there and then you start building a program with Daniel, but he's not facing him right away, and Daniel can still rack up some other title defenses. Like, that's my dream, because then you automatically know where these guys are going, and I feel like it will help give your roster so much more direction and knowing who can interact with who when, and then when dudes move divisions or whatever, like, it's exciting things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. They really went away from the rankings this year, but they do have the wins and losses you could tell a story with if you so choose. I wish that they would be consistent with it at least, because they don't really do that with any of their other titles. If they actually set that up and stuck with it for once, I would be up for it. But we'll see what they do. I hate this match so much. This MJF and Cole stuff. Everyone involved with it to just go away, I think. Up next, we have the international title, Konosuke Takeshita versus Powerhouse Hobbs. We did get the meat chance early on with the back and forth work there, the strike battles and all that stuff. Takeshita works the leg, try to take down Hobbs. They go back and forth. Takeshita gets the big B driver, near fall, going in there. You get a 1 count kick out by Hobbs, which was awesome, off the Blue Thunder bomb. They go to the top rope. They have some kind of slip and fall to the apron there, and they finally get back up to a superplex from Takeshita, and they work the leg more, and Hobbs ends up taking the knee brace off. And they make a big deal of this, like, commentary where they're like, oh, the leg is killing him. He has to get that knee off to get blood flow back. And then he goes up, like, Takeshita goes right for the leg again. Ends up turning that into the Raging Fire for the win. What do you think?
I'm a big Hobbs fan. I feel like he just hasn't been able to string enough good matches together in the ring, but this was one of the better Hobbs matches. I had the privilege of seeing him versus Rocky Romero in Defy, and I was like, fuck, this is an amazing Will Hobbs match. And this was on that level too, where I'd go, like 3.5, 3.75. I thought the big power spots were really well worked. He actually had a story to play with here. Him going to the knee and like that sort of sell or whatever. I liked seeing that from him as well, just a little bit of deeper psychology. So yeah, I hope they build momentum for both guys still, because this was thrown together so quickly that I honestly didn't know that this was happening on the show until I saw it. And I've been watching live. I've been watching the weekly shows.
I know, this is what I was kind of talking about earlier. Like, half of this show had almost not any build to it. And I don't know why. This didn't feel particularly over, other than when they were just chanting meat at the start. That was like the only thing. They didn't really care about this match. I like the idea of what they were going for, with Takeshita going after the leg, but we didn't really get the heroic moment for Hobbs to overcome it. I think that they ended up going to a little bit slow. Like, it was a little too slow for me, you know? Like, he really ground it too much to a halt to me. And I really think these guys have a better match in them than this one, in my opinion. It was good, though. Like, it was still good. I don't think 3.5 stars is wrong either. I think that, you know, they had a lot there. I kind of liked the top rope botch or whatever, where they slipped off the top rope, because it made sense with the story.
Yeah.
With him
and
going
like, the commentators covered it up, and I shouldn't say covered it up, but like acknowledged it and just immediately, oh, Hobbs' knee. Just right away gave out, and helped play in the story.
Yeah, exactly. So I really had no problem with that at all. I just thought that they could have had more action into it for this length of match overall, and the crowd just wasn't into it. Ultimately, they really had to work hard. It felt like they kind of got him by the end, but still, I think a 7 out of 10 feels right. Like that 3.5 level you pointed at, and I think these guys could have a great match. But what you said is kind of true about Hobbs, though, as well. As much as I really like him, he doesn't really have a litany of great matches under his belt. But still, I like him a lot. I think he's a great talent. Somebody I'd be like, he'd be one of my faces of the company at this point. Both of these guys would, but it just feels like they haven't really done them justice overall. But they go in. Renee's back with Okada, and he's like, Ospreay, he's on another level, but he's not on my level. Bitch. Good stuff. Thanks a lot. So we got Mercedes and Statlander. Another match. Like, there just wasn't any build to this. Like, it's like, okay, they had this great match 3 months ago. That's it. And that match did rule. Don't get me wrong. But they didn't really do anything to build up this rematch other than they're just going to wrestle again. And I hate that, because like this could be a generational level rivalry, in my opinion. I think that instead we end up in this situation where Statlander's having all these great performances, but you don't actually push her at all. Like, she's basically coming in and cleaning up your messes. And yes, it's great that they had this match, and the wrestling was strong. Like, I'm not going to hate on the match at all, but with no logical build to it, I think that really hurt my personal excitement for this match. But still, I was hyped for it because their last match was so great. I thought that was an amazing performance. I thought Statler had an amazing performance last time at the end of the day. But what did you think of the match overall?
This was like very New Japan pilled in the sense of like they wanted this to be the longest, most epic women's match in company history. Yeah. And I remember when they were like Edge and Orton and they were like the greatest wrestling match of all time, where you can kind of feel like they're setting it up to be this versus like a natural coming of, or coming about, I should say. Like, yeah. As much as I like this match, I like, I don't know. I would almost maybe prefer their first one just because it was so much more organic chemistry. And this one was a phenomenal match still. And I would place it like literally, it's like pretty much side by side, but like you could tell that they just wanted this to be an epic match versus like making an epic match, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. Like, Chris has to be the one to take this title off Mercedes. And I just don't see them doing it though still.
That's the thing. Like, the thing is, the way they use her, even before, I mean, remember the first feud build up that featured her getting ran over by a car. You know, not exactly a star-making feud by any means. Mercedes has earned her stripes. For the first few months, she really struggled, and it was partly their fault. I mean, she's bad. Like on the microphone, she is bad. Like there's no way she's not improving. She's not going to improve. She's a bad actress. You cannot change that. But she's also an exceptionally talented in-ring performer. And so they wasted all of this time with Camille having her cut these horrible promos every week, and really killing her star power to the point where this match happens. The crowd wasn't into this. And that's a shame. Because in the first match, like you said, it was such an organic match. Remember, the story came out that Mercedes called it on the fly for Stat to kick out of the Moneymaker. And I think it kind of makes sense because we both criticized the finish to that match as well as kind of the one weak point. But otherwise, the crowd was into it. That was the time to me. Like, Statlander should have won that first match. I think, like, we're kind of thinking in hindsight. I would have just had her win it there, really gain what she needs. She's the best. To me, she's the best person in this division. Like, Statlander overall, like in terms of promo and match work, I think her and Willow should be the faces of the division. Mercedes is great in her role right now because, again, they've stopped screwing up. Like, they've used her right recently. Let her have good matches. The match with Hazuki that got a ton of great praise and deservingly so. The Statlander match ruled. She got the best match Anna Jay's ever had on TV. Just let her wrestle, and you will get good things out of her. But this match tells me that they've done significant damage to her aura and star power. Because this should have felt like an epic rematch, and they wanted it to be, but the crowd wasn't there for it. You know?
Yep.
I thought the first match was special, and I thought this was above average. Like, it wasn't bad, but I thought the first match was, like, clearly better. Like this is a good match. And I like that they gave them the time. That's great and all, but it wasn't earned. Like the first match, it was like you said, it was organic. This was not. Like, this was a good match put on by two great performers, but it was kind of the baseline, like 3.5 star soft wreck to me. Like, I would rate this like a 7 out of 10. But it does have an 8.52 rating, so a lot of people really liked it. But so I'm a little bit off base with the voters. But I just thought the first match was a lot better, like, overall. And we'll see where they go. I do wish that there's no reason with the roster you have right now that the title should be wrapped, like the women's title should be wrapped up with Mariah and Tony, in my opinion. Like, there's no reason you can't have this level of match for both women's titles. You know, like, you have the roster to do it. And I just think when you compare the TBS title to the women's title, this is like, even if you like the Tony stuff, I don't think you can compare it to the level we're getting from this TBS title. I think it's like totally different levels. And it doesn't have to be. So I hope that they push people like Statlander, Willow as well, even Rosa in the future. There's a lot of people. You run through the whole roster practically. They're trying to build up youth with Sky Blue and Anna Jay. You know, they're doing different things. But I think they need to really get this whole women's division in check going forward, because I don't think it's in a great spot right now, even with all the talent. Like, this match kind of showed me. After their last match, I thought, okay, things are turned around. Like, we've got the Mercedes we always wanted to see. We're back here. And then the last couple of months, it just feels like we're in this, like, this treadmill. And the other one, like I said, it's been up and down. There's been good moments, but not what it should be. So I hope that the women's division also gets some TLC. And I don't mean tables, ladders, and chairs. I mean tender loving care to make this as best as it can in the future, because I don't think it's there right now.
Yeah.
But it was a good match. Like, nonetheless, it was good. Like, and they deserve credit for that. Like I said, but it felt like the baseline of what they could do, in my opinion. What was not the baseline was the next match. I will say it was cool that finally, after the match, the crowd did show respect to Statlander afterwards, because they kind of left her alone in the ring. But it kind of felt it. And even this though, it felt like a swan song almost, like for her, more than like something we'll take and move forward with. I'm really afraid that she's gonna disappear again, just like she did after the first match. And I don't want that because she's so good.
Yep.
Like, she is such a great talent. She deserves the world in this company. They don't treat her right. It's terrible. But the fans at least recognized it, and I really hope it's not any kind of swan song or for her to go away for a while again. Finally, we get to the Continental Classic match. Will Ospreay versus Kazuchika Okada. It all leads to this. Ospreay comes out with the bandages, the blood, and all that crap, the dried blood. He's going crazy with adrenaline. JR joins commentary. Is like, hey, I'm gonna talk about this match here, people. And so they have this match here. I mean, a lot happened here. And I think another thing I loved about the first match, bringing up back to Ospreay and Fletcher, him winning with the Styles Clash made the near fall on in this match that much better. I thought that was like such great psychology there for something so basic. Eventually they get to the part where he looks for the hidden blade. Okada ends up countering that. He ends up turning that into a power slam and then the Rainmaker for a great near fall. They fire up with punches, like straight up. He hits his European uppercuts. Ospreay's like, you could see like the light dying in him at this point, where he's like just barely hanging out to the mat, hanging out on the mat, and Okada hits like the cocky Kenta style kicks, then a headbutt, and he like leans in. He's like, hit me, Will. Like, go after me. Then he finally follows up with a big punch, but Okada gets away, looks for looks for the Rainmaker, and then Okada gets hit with the Spanish Fly, the one-man Spanish Fly from Ospreay. He looks for the hidden blade again, but then Okada hits the drop kick to break that up. Ospreay fires back with his own Rainmaker, then the Stormbreaker for a great near fall. Like, the crowd was really buying that. They do a counter back and forth that leads to Okada hitting another Rainmaker. He maintains wrist control, as Kevin Kelly once said. He goes in, hits the lariat. Ospreay did no-sells it. This was freaking so awesome, this whole segment. He no-sells it, hits the big super kick, looks for the hidden blade again, misses. They counter again. He looks for the Stormbreaker. That gets countered into the Rainmaker for a win. I mean, damn, this was a great match.
Yeah, this was. I texted you, and
yeah, this is when you jumped in the show.
Yep. And I said, I was like, this was the match I've been waiting for from Okada. From the character work, like when he played with Will's bloody bandages was so great. To the in-ring work, like this was peak Okada finishing sequence stuff going on. Can't believe it was under 20 minutes.
I know.
Like, that really blew my mind when I looked at the match time. I was like, what? But like, I don't know. This was everything I really wanted. I thought Ospreay had a hell of a babyface performance here and like literally lost nothing. In terms of like his status. If anything, he gained more again somehow. This guy's incredible. Again, this was exactly what Okada needed. This should have been the main event.
I 100% agree. I mean, it's easy to say it in hindsight. I get why they, if you don't see what happened, I get why they did it. But hindsight being 2020, this show is way better if this ends the show than what we actually got overall. Man, the only criticism I have of this, and really this whole tournament as a whole, I think we need to point at. I just think that when you see Ospreay, another big loss on pay-per-view, that he constantly has. I don't know if we've noticed this company sucks on top baby faces right now. Like, and you see him in this match, and you think this is your star. Like, he is him. Like, this is what you want. Like, we all wish we could be as great of a babyface as he was in this match, but he just loses over and over. When is his time coming? Eventually. Like, I think that he needs some big wins like that. He needs to be like the top project. And I mean, I love Darby's tournament. Don't get me wrong, that he's had, but like Ospreay has, like, he's the guy. Like, this should be your top babyface going forward, and he should have been all along, to be honest. But he definitely should be now. Like, he's proven that. We see it in the Darby match. We see it in this night. Both matches on this tournament. Like, if you ask me why 1, 2, 3, it would be the final, Ospreay and Fletcher, and then Ospreay and Darby. Like, it's him. Like, he is the guy. You have to push him. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not pushing him? It makes no sense. Like, he's so great that he's overcame it. Like, he's done such an amazing job that the fans love him anyway.
Yep.
But that's really because of his performance, not because of any particular push that they had. So yeah, that would be my one criticism. Like, another, and obviously this loss is building up to something as well. And I think they've effectively, with this one match, like, to me, he was like, okay, taking out this match, he was the worst performer in this tournament. Like, he was 12 of 12, I would say, like the least interesting person. They've successfully made him good again, pretty much. Like, they've made him cool and interesting again with the match and what happened after. We now have a dream match. Well, not a dream match, but a big match that everybody wants to see with Okada. They finally done it. But still, Ospreay needs to get some wins. Like, I mean, and he just stop it with this at the end of the day. That was my main feeling. It's like, especially after the main event, I was like, this babyface roster blows, and they don't have anybody like to be the effective one. And you've got Darby and Ospreay, and both of them lose a lot. So yeah, like, that would be like one of my main criticisms with this whole company. Like, why are your babyfaces always so weak? We talked about it. Remember, we talked about that with the Ospreay build, or not the Ospreay, the Orange Cassidy build up to the Moxley match, where he was on some like major pussy shit, like going into Moxley's match, where Mark Briscoe was ready to fight for him. Ishii was there, and he's like, "No, we can't fight Moxley. I don't want anybody to get hurt." It's like, what is that? like what is this? More on that on the main event, by the way. Well, like, more on bad babyface booking. We'll talk about. But we need stronger baby faces. So that's my tangent out of the way on that. Otherwise, a phenomenal match, nonetheless. And next up, we have that post-match of this. Chris Daniels comes out. He's all like, Okada, you won the tournament. Great job. He's like, normally I come out there, shake your hand, and tell you you're the greatest. But I won't do that because I'm not an EVP anymore because this man's back. Kenny Omega's music hits. He gets a great pop. They do the slow, like, camera shot up the ramp to him walking out behind the doors. And Excalibur's like, we knew his debut or his return was imminent on there. And so Omega walks out, gives him the belt. They have a stare down. Perfect. Like, all you need for the first segment of these two, just have them look at each other. You know what this is. This is the big match. Like you said, probably towards All In. And it was perfect. Like, you don't need to do anything more than this.
And if you don't know, they set you up to research. Like, okay, this seems important. What have they done before, right?
Yep. Absolutely. It was perfect for what they did.
And imagine if this was the ending of the show, and then you set up your next big show in All In like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we would be pumped. I mean, obviously they have like like they have Revolution and stuff like before All In, but that's a long time to wait for this match. Like it's gonna take. Are we really gonna drag this out 8 to 9 months? You still have Omega and Ospreay. I've never had their rubber match or their series as well. If you get down to that, but this felt like main event, like superstar level match, like Omega and Okada here. Like this felt like the one. But how are they going to make it last for 8 to 9 months? That's the question. And they need to do like Okada can't have 2025 Okada cannot be like 2024 Okada. Like they need to go completely erase all that crap and make him a top star if this is what they're building to. Omega felt like the top star on the show, but they need to get Okada up to that, which they successfully did in this match with Ospreay. But like hopefully it works out. And obviously the match will feel epic when they do it. Like Okada and Omega one more time. And I totally agree with what you said. If this was the end of the show, I'd be buzzing about it, and we'd be super positive. And in the end, by the end of the show, I was really lukewarm on it, despite it being a really strong show. Like, objectively. But regardless of all that, we had this big moment. Omega looked great. The crowd loved it. I did like, too, where Excalibur was like, well, hopefully he'll come back to the ring and wrestle soon. I was like, yeah, he will. Like, literally in a week. Like, in New Japan. Did you not know this, Excalibur? At the end of the day? I like how they're handling him. Like, they're kind of ignoring this January 5th show for some reason. Anyway, main event time. AEW World Title. Orange Cassidy, Hangman Page, Switchblade versus Jon Moxley.
Let's hear it.
This match. So they ended up coming in. They immediately turned on each other, like all the baby faces. Like they're all fighting. The Death Riders interfere. They end up grabbing, Claudio and Wheeler were there, and they grabbed Moxley to drag him to the crowd, but everybody ran after him. Hangman fought Claudio. Cassidy and Moxley fought. Everybody was fighting. Suddenly they cut to Christian in the crowd with his group, the Patriarchy. They do a bunch of finishers over and over, pretty much. They do everything, the beach break, they go in, PK, blah, blah, blah. Went for the Blade Runner. They do the thing where Cassidy collapsed with everyone. Everybody was down, and it felt totally unearned, in my opinion, considering what this match was. We had to take the Dead Eye, Orange Punch, looked for the Paradigm Shift. Buckshot Lariat was done. Wheeler comes in to interfere again. Hangman hits a low blow on Cassidy. White goes for the Blade Runner. He finally hits it on Moxley. Gets a near fall, but Wheeler drops the referee to interfere with that. Switchblade goes after Wheeler, but then Marina Shafir comes in and is like, "Nuh-uh, you ain't doing shit now, Switchblade." And Switchblade's like, "Fuck it," hits the Blade Runner to Marina. Gets a huge pop from the crowd too, by the way. Here, Wheeler sneaks in, hits the Busaiku knee. Moxley steals the pin, and the referee magically comes to for the win.
Oh, the referee did not magically come to. Claudio walked out and picked up Pittsburgh right. Baby and threw him into the ring. He had him it was just because I was cracking up so hard at that stuck with me. I don't think I'm as hard on this one as you are.
Well, I mean, I just said what happened. I didn't say negative or positively. I'm just telling you. Did all the stuff I say, was that not accurate to what happened in the match?
No, it's accurate. Okay. my comparison point for this was the Four Pillars four-way, right? I was more into the characters here. One of the things I literally thought while watching this, I was like, Moxley is such a good wrestler who's buried in just the worst shit right now.
Yeah. It's all his fault, though.
Yeah, and there were a lot of stretches where he looked really fucking good in this, and it bummed me out. But like up until the finish, I didn't think that this was a bad match. I enjoyed it up until then. Did I think it was a great match? No. But up until when Wheeler came in, and it's like, the thing about Wheeler is like he has no role outside of this. And I think that that's what's so frustrating is like they're the trios champs and they have absolutely no presence. And I feel like that's something too that like makes this all the more stupid.
By the way, another, not to interrupt, but another division that they've screwed over besides the tag division, the women's titles. The trios belts used to be one of the top titles when it was the Elite and the Death Triangle. What happened? Yep. The thing is, what happened to all of this? Because even the world title sucks. Like, we don't see it. It's in this dumbass briefcase all the time. You don't see the trios belts. They don't bring them out to the ring either. Their storyline's fucking nonsensical. They don't have any consistency to their logic. The babyfaces all suck. Like, nobody's likable. Everyone's turning on everybody. Like I said, the biggest pop of this match was Jay White hitting the Blade Runner on Marina. What? Even the last match, when Willow came out and attacked Marina, that got the biggest pop of the match. Marina is not the most over person in your main event storyline. That makes no fucking sense. Like, why are they booking things how they're doing it? And we're going to talk about the post-match in a second, which is a whole other can of worms. Why are the belts wrapped up in this? If you want to have Moxley have his goofy playground with whatever they're going to do, they're going to drop angles week in, week out, just like last year with the Devil, where shit changed on a weekly basis. Remember where they had that week where there was like 20 Devil guys that ran out? Oh
my God.
Yeah, and then suddenly the next week there's 5. It doesn't make any sense. This one, there's a higher power one week, and then the next week they're trying to change AEW. Then the next week, other people say AEW should change, but not this way. Like, the storyline's awful. The match, here's the thing. I don't think this match was bad as a spot fest. There was no substance to this match, or psychology, really. But if you just look at it as a display of moves from these four, I guess the closest psychology would be Hangman turning heel on Cassidy, I suppose. But if you just look at it as a spot fest match, and kind of a spectacle, it didn't go long. It didn't waste all of our time or anything like that. It was fine as a match for what it was. But the overall, like, the grand scheme of it is what sucks, in my opinion, more so than the match itself, which was a fine spot fest. You had big finishers over and over. You actually built some good ones. The finish sucked. That's another issue I could say. Like you said, kind of a comedy finish with Wheeler and Claudio. Wheeler, he's my guy. Like, I like him as a person. I like him as a wrestler. But he's the way they booked this, he's basically turned into AEW's version of Dominic. Every time he comes out, the fans chant "fuck you, Yuta" or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like, he has so much more. There's so much more that he could be, I feel like, than that. But I don't know. But I will say I did not think the match was bad. I thought it was a spot fest match, but it was a good in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, another tangent that I went on here. What did you think of the finish and all that stuff?
Didn't like the finish. It's just the most uninspired shit, man.
Yeah.
I just do not care for it. I think that, like, it's so Bloodline, so very Bloodline.
It's like the Bloodline if it was combined with the House of Torture. I get a singular storyline.
Yeah, no, which is just, that doesn't sound good, and it's not. And one of my pet peeves, especially when you're supposed to have Moxley is presented as a dominant wrestler still, right? Like, there's no reason why you can't present him as that genuinely and have him still fucking win matches. Like, if you want him to be feared, have him be feared. Don't have Wheeler deciding all these matches. Like, there's nothing to fear about this group other than the fact that, like, there's just more of them. I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't.
Look no further than what you just said. How was Roman Reigns as the champion when he was presented as the most dominant champion? How were his matches going?
Oh, and we complained about that too. The fact that Roman never won clean.
It still sucked. Yeah, it still sucked when he did it. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, so they're just they're taking all of the worst tropes of like all of these terrible groups, and why? But, and like you said, there's good to Moxley as a wrestler. Like, it's not like he's this terrible in-ring guy. Like, he's a good wrestler. Like, we look at that match Moxley Cassidy had last year at All Out. That was a great freaking match. Like, Moxley's had a ton of great matches. The match way back when with Moxley and Yuta, that was a fantastic match. He's had a lot of good stuff, but I don't know. Anyway, after the match, Claudio's coming out. He's about to do something. Suddenly, FTR's music hits, and then they're looking all cocky. They're like, "Yeah, we're here," because it kind of played out because they did that promo where they're like, "We're coming to Asheville, and we won't be alone." And suddenly, they pointed to the ramp, and we see rated FTR on the ramp. Metalingus plays. Edge runs out, or Adam Copeland, he comes out. They all fight. They end up hitting the Shatter Machine to Wheeler. Cope comes gets right in Moxley's face, and we see holy shit chants from the crowd. This one's over. I will give him that. He does, he breaks the steel chair with the bar and does the crossface with the bar in the mouth at the end. Suddenly they save Moxley, and he grabs a microphone, and it's busted up. It doesn't work, so he has to get a second microphone, and he's all like, "You're all mine. Your asses are mine. We're taking this whole thing. We're taking it all." And then they talk about the trios match between, 3-on-3 match on Fight for the Fallen on Max. And much like WCW, they used the pay-per-view to hype up their TV show. Yeah. And that's how the show ends. I think, I'll go first on this, and I'll let you talk about it. Listen, I'm not anti-edging or anything like that, but this is taking it a little too damn far. At the end of the day, what are we doing making this the main event? And that's another issue to kind of bring it back to what I said earlier. Why are we doing Copeland versus Mox in the main event? Last we saw, he broke his leg jumping off of a cage. There's no logical build-up. The angle was fine. The crowd was into it. It was basic and all. At least he's not, because he's been out, he's not really a damaged babyface. But it's still him in the main event scene, which doesn't fill me personally with joy. I think if you're a big Edge fan, this might have worked and been a great thing. But for me, Edge and FTR as main eventers, I'm kind of over it. But what did you think?
I did not think that this was the biggest return. I thought Omega almost died.
Omega was way better. Yeah, way better.
Dude almost died, was out for a year and a half. Copeland broke his foot on a cage drive. It's such different things, and Copeland hasn't even been out as long. I really do think that if you flip-flopped or just flipped these two matches and segments, that it would have been such a better pay-per-view, and I think that I wouldn't have minded this as much. But Copeland Mox feels like the wrong direction. FTR is, God, I can't think of a team that I'm less interested in right now.
And they're actually, the sad thing is they're actually good, but they're not interesting at all.
I don't think, for me, this should not be Copeland Mox. This should be the trios titles. That's what makes the most sense to me, because what the fuck is FTR going to do here because they don't have the tag titles. So, like, what role does FTR play other than backing up Copeland here? None. There's nothing that actually advances them other than the trios titles. So to me, like, that has to be the end game here, or that should have been the start game, is that they come out and they're basically, you know, just Dynamite, Max, main event, trios titles. Wouldn't that be fucking cool? Yeah. And then
that would be good.
You deal a blow to the Death Riders and you take the trios titles. Okay, cool. Now we have a little less that's embedded in them and stuff that's stuck in limbo simply because it's involved in this storyline, right? And I feel like that's like, you don't need to do an entire feud. You can literally have that be the match, and then Rated FTR starts their own thing with the trios titles.
I think that's a perfect idea, to be honest. My problem, though, is this group again. Like, this Death Riders. Like, the thing with this, and like I said, I really feel like if I were a writer on this show, like, whoever's responsible for the main event and the Cole and MJF stuff should be kind of embarrassed. You know, like, they should be like, man, did I really put this together? And like, so the match was fine, but I do think there was no substance to it because, as I said, they had, again, we've seen them really flirt with this Hangman babyface turn, and it's worked every time. Like I said, the fans want to love this guy. It's obvious. Narratively, it's not great because, like, he's drifted so far that it wouldn't really be an earned babyface turn, but at least he has something the others don't, and that's energy from the crowd, and he feels like a main eventer. But here, though, he did the turn on Cassidy, and I just didn't feel anything for it. It was such an empty, like this match just felt so empty to me, like, you know, and I don't know.
It was a moves match, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt so empty overall, and you know, I really think that the Death Riders have got to go. Like, they have to figure out some way to move on from this. They're just holding on. Maybe this in their mind was like a big change in the story, bringing Copeland back into it. But and you
all
obviously
this does too is make me think that Christian's more involved now.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Like, obviously, you are going to lead to an Edge and Christian like moment of some sort. Could Christian turn babyface, like on a line with Copeland, to fight the Death Riders?
I mean, like, what this would say to me is, like, I mean, Copeland beats Mox and Christian cashes in on Copeland.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what
are you doing? like that's another thing. I'd be like,
well, here's the thing. If you want, like, think about it just like Danielson, right, this year. If you want these guys in your world championship lineage, which, you know, ultimately, why wouldn't you want an Edge, right, in your world championship history if you're a wrestling dude? You're like, oh shit, yeah, whatever. I don't know. But this dude just got injured, right? So it's like, you know, who knows how much time he has left. If you want to do it now. And
and that would feel like a legit moment if Edge won the title. Like, the crowd would love that. I'm not his biggest fan by any means, but the crowd would love it.
And the best way Christian can win the world title is by pinning Edge off a contract.
Yeah, it's screwing him over specifically. Yes.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense when you lay it out. It's kind of scary. I still don't think that's where the world title should be in 2025, but I get where, like, what you're making a good case for it, to be honest.
What does Darby do now?
He just, I don't know.
Does he just disappear again and then crash another car after the next world title match?
And that's another thing. This is the problem with a lot of their baby faces. Even Statlander, we gave it a similar problem. It's like, if you're not going for the title, you're on the bench. It seems like you're not even on the show like half of the time. And Darby's one of the worst ones at that. Like you said, he disappears for months at a time. Mm-hmm. Why? Like, why can't he just do shit on the show? Have him feud with somebody. Like, maybe it doesn't have to be Moxley, even though that's like the story of all of this has pivoted strongly, apparently, to this Edge stuff. But up to this point, Darby's been their main thorn in their side. Is that just going to go away now? Like you said, is he just going to disappear again? What is the point of all of this? So many questions and not a lot of satisfying answers seemingly on the horizon. But like I said, you did make a good case for Copeland, at least. And even Christian as well. So I kind of buy into it. The main thing is we just have to move on from this Death Rider stuff. Like, it's just, it's unacceptable. Like, it's unacceptably bad. But we'll see. And after that, to be honest, like, let's say what you say comes to pass. In my opinion, Death Riders have to go for a while. Like, they need some time off. I think that they've done real damage to everybody in the group, pretty much. Outside of Marina, again, the one person who's benefited from it. Who's not even a wrestler. Like, she never wrestles in matches. But, like, everyone else, I think, should go away for a while, and we bring them back in certain ways. We'll see what happens. I kind of had an idea, fantasy booking-wise, that, like, they could turn on Moxley at the end. Like, the rest could. And, like, Yuta was, like, a mastermind all along. Like, he manipulated shit into his favor. And again, you kind of put him as a Weasley type of heel. And it's somewhat similar to Dominic in the Judgment Day, although he's not really positioned as a leader. I would have Wheeler directly be like the boss who everybody knows will get his ass beat. Like, if somebody gets his hand on him, but he's got his bodyguards with him type of deal with Claudio and Pac. Like, if we were to do a fantasy booking show to All In, that would be a storyline I would look at. And you can build to Moxley as a babyface, the heart of the company type of guy again. But who knows? We'll see what happens. Show overall, I really agree with what you said, the point you made. If they switch the main event with the Continental Classic final, the show looks a lot better. Like, it really flows great. You have an epic ending and a great thing to look forward to. With it ending how it did with that main event, again, I'm not hating on it that much, but I just think the storyline of it all overshadowed everything. But the fact is, if you ended it with that Continental Classic and Omega coming back, man, it's like we're getting into, like, we're kicking off 2025 big. In fact, I'll go one step further. Instead of having the announcement for the trios match, I would have said Omega, he's opening up the show on Max. Like, the first thing you will see on Max is Kenny Omega walking out to that ring. That's how I would have ended the show. Omega and Okada staring off. Omega's cutting the promo at the start of Max to welcome us into the new era. And I think we'd all be super hyped for it if that happened. But still, we got what we got. I mean, look, there's criticisms to be laid at this show. It's hard to argue this show is not really good when it has those two Ospreay matches on it. I liked the TBS title match and the international title match well enough. I liked the women's world title match, the Tijuana street fight, and the Okada Ricochet match in their own ways. It's really just the MJF, Cole, and the main event, like, storyline, the Death Rider stuff, that just really, really blights the show. But as a singular show, I can't say I didn't enjoy this a lot overall. There was too much good stuff on it to say that this was a bad show. I thought it was a really good show overall, and they delivered. I think this would be like an 8 out of 10 show. It's got an 8.31 rating. I'm looking at it right now on Cage Match. Somebody rated it a 2 out of 10, so I guess not everybody was won over. But 10 ratings, 8.31. Seems about right. I think the inmates got it right. But that's about what I felt. What about you as a show overall as we wrap things up?
Yeah, I'd go like 7.58 for sure. It was, so I mean, like, I had watched 4 hours of wrestling before. What?
That was an oddly specific number you threw around. Why 7.58?
Oh no, 7.5 or 8. Sorry, I should have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm with you. I'm not arguing. I thought it was interesting. That's all.
I'm going down to the cage match decimals here.
Yeah, okay.
No, I watched like 4 hours of wrestling before even starting this pay-per-view, and this was still such an easy show to get through, and I never felt fatigued. I think that our last show we discussed Final Battle, and pretty much all of my criticisms about that show and its booking and its length were rectified here. So I'm a very happy person right now when it comes to the quality of the show they put on.
You have to really appreciate how they handled the tournament as well. Like, it's hard to imagine. Well, I mean, I really think Ospreay needs a win. Like, that's my only qualm with it. But it's hard to imagine what they did. They couldn't have done it better than how they did it, other than it being the main event, which we wanted. But the actual ending was fantastic, with Omega coming back, Okada getting his groove back. That's about the perfect end to this tournament, I would say. And he ties Chono.
Yeah, that was it was funny to me just because it's like they can decide that history.
Yeah, yes, exactly, yes. They've determined now.
Exactly, which is like, I don't know, it's funny. 5 major tournament wins. Chono's like, what the fuck? Yes. Chonos are all G1 or no?
Yeah, he won the G1 all those times.
Okay. See, because I'm like, okay, if it's 4 G1s in a Champions Carnival, sure, maybe. But like, no, if he won 5 G1s, I don't think winning a Continental Classic is the same, but okay. It's just funny.
I did love how Chris Charlton on Twitter was like, no, he's already broken it. He has 2 New Japan Cups. That makes 6, not 5. Sure. Sure, Chris. On that end. I loved it. It was very funny, though. Yeah. Overall, though, yeah, great show. Like, really strong stuff. There's some major issues with this company that needs to be worked out. But nobody can argue the wrestling quality. So, yeah. End of the year. Like I said,
end of the year.
Yeah, really cool. I already kind of ran down some stuff earlier on coming up in the near future. We got cool stuff coming in the world of wrestling and the world of Wrestle Update and in the world of Dylan and Aniello as well. So really glad to be doing it with you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Anything to say before we end the year?
Oh, man, just happy to be back at it. Excited to do the awards next week. And
cannot wait for this. Cannot wait for this show.
It'll be a very interesting new year as we go into streaming. I'm excited to cancel my cable subscription.
Yes.
I don't need it anymore, so I'm just going to use Max, Netflix, and NBA League Pass. And we'll see how that rocks. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of exciting things happening over the next couple of weeks as well. I look back at how wrestling started this past year, and it's going to be so much different this year. I mean, SmackDown 3 hours, Raw 3 hours, AEW Dynamite on Max. Game's totally changing, and I'm here for it, and I hope that we can continue talking about it.
No Rampage anymore either.
No more Rampage.
Yeah, the Death Riders destroyed it.
Took over the TBS Superstation.
Did you see that angle? They shot the end.
Yeah, I did see that.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in the future. Like, Collision's also on Max too, I think, right? So we can't forget Collision now. Come on now.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like you said, we're entering a new era. I am dreading any potential 3-hour SmackDowns. That sounds like an awful time for all of humanity. I have to say, not to spoil ahead of next week, but I honestly think Raw has been good this year. Like, since it went to 2 hours, having to watch like these shows every week. Again, I probably wouldn't on my own, but now that I have and we've like got to the end of the year, I think Raw is better than Dynamite. Like or has been to this point. it's just a better show, like narratively, to watch. And I mean, it's a low bar because a lot of the narratives on AEW, as I said, are horrible. But I think their shows are actually easier when it's 2 hours. But that's going to change. Once it gets to 3 hours, it's going to be bad again. And we all know this. And we'll talk about things next week as well. We're going to relive a lot of great stuff on the award show. So that's going to be a ton of fun. I have so many things to say that I want to relive. I want to know what awards you have, Nello. I can't wait to see your perspective and give my own as well. So we're going to do some cool stuff, as I said. Most importantly, thank you, the listeners. We've been able to come back. It's all thanks to you guys that we've been able to keep moving forward in a good direction. Really means the world to all of our listeners out there. Hopefully you guys enjoy the World's End review, enjoy the awards next week, and all the cool stuff we've got coming up. Hopefully you guys are feeling good. You got great holidays, whatever you celebrate. You got good food. New Year's is coming up. Another chance for free food. If you missed the other ones, it just never ends. Get the chocolate eclairs, celebrate the holidays, get free food, watch good wrestling, listen to Wrestle Update. Live your best life.
Yeah.
All right, then. I hope you guys had an amazing 2024, and 2025 is even better. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I love you. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.